Good morning. Can you introduce yourself to the court?
Good morning. My name is Sawyer Shaw.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm an entrepreneur here in Midlands.
So tell us, how did you get involved in the world of business?
Well, I've always been really fascinated by business, and actually particularly finance. Growing up, money was kind of tight, so it became pretty much a necessity for me to be good at budgeting money. I took that with me my entire life, and I found myself studying business at Stanford. But while I was there, I quickly realized that I was racking up a lot of debt, and that there were more opportunities for me outside of that. So I left Stanford my second year, and I started a company called Gel, which was this company where I was streamlining and putting together a lot of different social media platforms, because technology and a lot of the innovations we have today is something that I've also been really interested in. After I went public with that company, I purchased TBD.
What is TBD?
TBD is a magazine.
And why did you decide to purchase TBD?
Well, when I first purchased TBD, it actually wasn't doing really well. It used to be a magazine that was really popular and very successful, but it quickly fell out of favor. And I saw it as a pretty exciting business opportunity to see if I could turn things around and maybe implement some of the interests that I had in technology into the company as well.
What was your plan to turn TBD around?
I came into TBD with a 3-step plan. The first thing that I was going to do to just make it financially viable again was going to be a reduction in force. After that, I wanted to change the content and style, and then build some healthy relationships with advertisers as well.
Now, before we get too much into your plan, we've heard a lot about Riley Winter today, and I just wanted to ask if you could tell us more about his position at TBD.
Sure. Miss Winter was a senior writer at TBD when I arrived. She was a phenomenal writer and definitely a respected employee. But after I arrived and I made a lot of changes to the philosophy of the company and our style, she really refused to align herself with that new vision. She made a lot of decisions that harmed the company, and after 2 years, it ultimately became so bad that I had no choice but to let her go.
Getting back to your plan now, tell us more about your first step in this plan to turn TBD around.
Sure. The first step that I mentioned was a reduction in force. And what that means is that when I first arrived, I knew that I was going to have to let go of several employees.
Why was this reduction necessary?
It was necessary because what a lot of people don't realize about companies is that employees are often the biggest expense. And given that TBD was failing, it wasn't making any money when I first arrived, in order to just make it viable again, I had to let go of the employees that TBD could not afford to keep on.
And how did you make these decisions of who to let go?
Well, it's not an easy decision. It's never easy to decide who's going to be let go from their job. But what you'll often find with companies is that when they're failing, it's because the people that are in charge of making difficult employment decisions are too close to the people involved. And they can be subjective in how they make those decisions. So it was important for me to instead be objective in my criteria. And I defaulted to a sort of cost-benefit analysis where I compared each employee's salaries to the value that they were adding to the company. And that's how I made those decisions.
And you were here today. You heard Mr. Lin testify. He said that you made your decisions based off if they look like us, they stay, and if they look like our parents, they go. Now, did you say that, Ms. Shaw?
Absolutely not. I've never said anything like that in my life. I don't believe that Mr. Lin got on the stand today and lied, but I do think that he maybe misheard or was mistaken about what he thought he heard that day. But that's never something that I would say or think about when making employment decisions.
And on that day that you made those employment decisions, on that first day, did you let Riley Winter go then?
No. On the first day, I had no reason to let Miss Winter go.
So then when did you let Ms. Winter go?
That was 2 years after I purchased TBD.
Now, I want to hear more about your second step. What was the second step in your plan to turn TBD around?
This part of my plan involved changing the style and the content of the articles.
And why was this important?
Well, the first reason why this was important was because I didn't think that TBD was really taking advantage of all the technological innovations that we could have. We weren't really accessing the digital platform, so I changed everything from print to digital. And I realized that by doing this, we were just extending access to more customers. What's amazing about the modern internet age is that everybody around the world has access to all of the world's information at the click of a button. And that's the kind of magic that I wanted TBD to be a part of. But on top of that, allowing more customers to be a part of TBD meant more revenue for the company. So this was a very important part of making TBD successful again.
And how did Riley Winter play a part in this change in content?
Well, Riley Winter's style more closely aligned with the previous style of TBD. She was a very professional, very academic writer. And that kind of intellectual writing can turn off a lot of customers. Some people don't feel like they could understand that kind of writing, or that it's writing that they would even be interested in. Miss Winter did make some few minimal attempts to more closely align with a more accessible style, but overall her style was more academic than it ever really was accessible.
How would you say that this cost the company?
Well, it cost the company in the loss of a lot of potential customers. But the bigger problem was that Miss Winter was very, very vocal about her disagreement with me about this philosophy. She would constantly criticize it, insult the new direction, and talk about it with all of the other employees of the company. This really, really affected company morale.
I want to move on now and finally talk about your third step. Can you tell us more about your third step to turn TBD around?
Sure. This was going to come more on the business side of things, and what I needed to do at this point was make sure that TBD had healthy relationships with advertisers to bring in some more income for the company.
And how did Riley Winter play a part in this relationship with TBD's advertisers?
Well, Miss Winter was on the content side, so her job didn't have anything to do with advertisers. But one day she published an article where she chose to criticize the biggest advertiser in the company. In fact, earlier when Mr. Lin was testifying, he said that he knows what TBD is because they're responsible for paying his paycheck every month. Turntable was a very important advertiser for our company, and Miss Winter published an article that completely insulted them.
Now, we've heard today a lot about your relationship with Miss Winter, and I wanted to ask a little bit more about that. Now, can you tell us a little bit about Miss Winter's birthday at TBD?
Yes, absolutely. Miss Winter turned 50 when she was working at TBD, and just like with all the other employees, we got her a cake and a card. Now, part of what I like to do at TBD, part of what I wanted to do with the company was make sure that we had a really familial and comfortable environment. And a lot of the times the employees would joke around with each other, poke fun at each other. In fact, on my birthday, they held a roast. If any of the employees had ever come forward and told me that they were uncomfortable, even slightly, with any of the jokes that were being made, we definitely would have addressed those concerns. But Miss Winter never told me that she was uncomfortable with any of the jokes. Most of the time she laughed along. So I didn't really know that her feelings were hurt by the jokes that were made.
And what about TBD's 50th birthday? Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. While I had first purchased TBD, it was running up pretty close to their 50th anniversary, and they had a celebration planned. But like I told you earlier, TBD was failing when I first purchased it, and I didn't want to draw attention to the fact that it had existed for so many years and was not financially viable. So I wrote an email to the company saying that we didn't want to celebrate the age of the company and that was an embarrassment, and so I canceled that party.
Would you say that age is an embarrassment in general?
No, absolutely not. I would never say that an employee's age or a person's age, for that matter, is ever an embarrassment. But I did think that the company's age at that time, considering that they weren't successful, was not something that we needed to draw attention to.
Now, what ultimately made you make that decision to let go of Riley Winter?
I let go of Miss Winter because the decisions that she was making, were harming the company. And ultimately, when she wrote that article criticizing Turntable, the CEO actually told me on the phone that he was going to pull all of the advertising if I didn't let her go. When he talked to me on the phone, he also asked me to send him the format that he would have to let us know officially, and so I did that. And once I officially got that notice from him, I had to let her go.
And did you hire Landon Green to replace Riley Winter?
No, I did not make the decision to replace Miss Winter with Mr. Green. I did hire him on the day that she was let go, and I wrote an email to my attorney explaining that. And I did use some insensitive language about my employees, not knowing that that the email was, not really thinking about who was going to read the email. But I never made the decision to let her go in order to replace her with Mr. Green or to replace her with somebody younger. It was simply a decision based on what was best for the company.
Ask the witness.
Cross your eye.